Do you see that in many people's eyes?
I do. I see it in a lot of people. I think there's something that God put in all of us, and that's to overcome, to move forward.
Jesus Christ, you can trust him. He'll never fail. We've seen midgets grow. We've seen arms and legs that stop growing. Mandada basata. I don't make this stuff up.
So are we going to be called away to meet the Lord? But it's not going to be 300 years. We live in right at the coming of Jesus Christ.
You're just a 10-foot tall crybaby.
I'm crying.
It's not so bad. I mean, no Christians aren't being killed.
No, not yet.
What the Bible says, Leviticus 20:13. If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with the woman, they shall surely be put to death, their blood shall be upon them. And that, my friend, is the cure for AIDS.
The notion that atheists are somehow the intelligentsia among us and so forth, I think this is just completely false.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Age of Reason podcast. Alex, you ready? I think I went too soon. How's it going, man?
No, yeah, you're good, man. I'm doing good. Finishing up some housework here. Always fun stuff. We're painting the house and getting new carpet, so we were moving the beds out, and you're always afraid of what you're gonna find under your mattress. And sure enough, there was a
old sandwich.
Charlie Brown Christmas book that my wife had put under there because it talked about Jesus. She didn't want my kids to read.
Why is it in the house? Oh, does it belong to her, like somebody else, and she just hid it from him?
No, every time the kids go to my dad's, they always bring back a bunch of books that we used to have as kids over there, and they brought it back in the mix. And it was just funny. I lifted up the mattress. I'm like, what the hell's Charlie Brown's Christmas doing in there? And she's like, no, don't let the kids see it.
Normally where the porn stash would be. Yeah, the reason I said old sandwich was because I remember a long time ago, you and I, we had Burger King once, and you had a chicken sandwich. And it was in December. It was Christmas time. We were playing that game, Manhunt, the first Manhunt that came out. And 6-7 months go by, and your mom wakes us up really early in the morning. She's like, all right, it's fucking spring cleaning day. Get your asses out of bed. So we start cleaning the house. But there had been this smell in your fucking room. And we couldn't figure out where it was. And we moved your mattress. And that damn chicken sandwich from Burger King was like still in the mattress somewhere. Which I'm assuming is where Charlie Brown was.
Yeah, it was. I was like, what the hell's Charlie Brown doing in there? You know.
We were slobs growing up. Ugh.
Oh yeah.
Well, we can open with good news today. Apple has the court ruled in Apple's favor, which is good because something the media was not telling everybody was that there was about 200 other phones that the FBI wanted Apple to get into, and that news came out after our last episode. So it wasn't just going to start and stop there, but I do want to point out that when I said a few weeks ago that, I trust Bill Maher on a lot of his views, I don't just throw to him and say, hey, anything Bill Maher says I'm good with. No, Bill Maher was for the FBI, which I find to be very opposite of his views.
I was pretty shocked when I was listening to the episode and I heard him say that. I thought on this one, I thought on the Patriot Act he was against it. I could be wrong, but I thought the whole time he was against kind of the government collecting all the information. So I was surprised when I heard it, the way he always says it too. He makes sound like you're so stupid if you feel the opposite way.
Exactly.
It's always kind of the turn off from him, but. Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, the court ruled that way, and it should stand. Well, I guess now the Supreme Court's only 8, so it's got a better chance of standing. Speaking of that, I guess Clarence Thomas spoke for the first time in 10 years today. I had no idea. I had heard something recently that he was pretty quiet on the bench, but I had no idea he hadn't asked a question in 10 years.
Over,
like,
I don't know the exact date, but over 10
No,
years.
I saw it was like 2006.
Oh, was it?
So yeah, so it was pretty much 10 years. But
You should elaborate on what this question was about.
yeah, so the case was a misdemeanor. If somebody's charged with a misdemeanor for domestic violence, the government was saying they should not be allowed to own a handgun or own a weapon. I mean, I believe a gun in general. And his question pretty much was is this the only misdemeanor that allows you to get your constitutional rights stripped away? Obviously, talking about the Second Amendment and basically defending the fact that somebody who's goes to court and is convicted of a domestic abuse, there's no problem with them, owning a weapon.
Well, I think he makes a valid point. I don't think domestic violence offenses should be misdemeanors. It's domestic violence isn't a foreign thing for me. Not that I beat my wife, but I've known.
Thanks for.
Yeah, it came out. I'm like, shit. I should probably clarify
Little
that.
disclaimer here.
But I would think, outside of just the person I am, I think one of the reasons why I've never raised a hand to my wife, and we just celebrated our 9-year wedding anniversary last Wednesday, I think. I think the reason why I've never done that is because I grew up around domestic violence. I had a great teacher growing up who taught me the wrong way to do everything. So all I had to do was apply the opposite method, and life has been pretty good as far as my marriage goes. But I don't know how guns are meant to destroy. They're meant to kill things. I mean, you can argue no target practice, all you want, or it's just fun to go out and shoot things. Which yeah, I know I've done it, but really it's an instrument to kill, and I don't see how giving somebody an instrument of violence or allowing them to continue possessing an object of violence after they've committed a violent act. I'm with it. I mean, I think you should at least get a restriction. I mean, if you get, a domestic violence deal, depending on the terms, you go 6 months to a year where you have to turn your gun over. I'd even be good with that.
Yeah, I guess personally, I would, if it was my choice, I would say some kind of time limit or something. But on the other side, my personal belief, even though I guess I'm a feminist or whatever, I'm for equal rights and all that, good stuff. Mm-hmm. I think like when a man hits a woman, I think that's one of the just the lowest things like a man could do. So I think if somebody does that and is capable of doing that, I would question their ability to handle anger, and of course, when that multiplies when they have a firearm. So
exactly. But there's the reason I say restriction time period is because there are cases where it could be self-defense, and I would say that the man is typically often thought to automatically be to blame. And let's admit that there are some crazy fucking women out there. And there may be a point where a man has to defend himself, like legitimately. So I guess what I'm saying is it's like, if you're in your 40s and you've never had a criminal record and the police show up to your house and there's no telling, now the rule I think in California is somebody's going to jail anytime they respond to a DV. There should just be a gray area there. I mean, you show up and some guy's beat his wife and, within an inch of his life. It should be, then you have, attempted murder, assault, all that, the felonies will come from that. But I don't know. The problem is that if this is just a misdemeanor, it gave Clarence Thomas a point to actually make. And, you had 10 years, Mr. Thomas, to ask a good question about a good fucking case, and you blew your wad on this. He held that shit, he edged, and he did the tantric exercises, and he just all over the fucking place and it wasn't for anything good. So, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I guess hopefully he goes another 10 years.
I think Scalia probably has something to do with it. I'm sure that has something to do with why he finally said something. Who knows?
I guess because I'm sure Scalia would have asked that question much sooner in the case.
Exactly. Let me see. What do we have here? Oh, hey, let's get one of the bigger topics out of the way. Euthanasia. So, I see sort of both sides of this. Where I'm at with euthanasia is terminal illness. You should have every right, I think. And I think it's, I can't put myself in somebody's shoes, but just from my perspective, the way I understand it would be, if you get some sort of, stage 4 cancer of any, major organ or whatever be the case, I can imagine that you're going to feel very powerless and that you have no control over anything. I mean, you're going to lose control over body function and possibly your speech, depending on what kind of cancer this is, and just your own liberties. And I think in some sense it gives you, the ability to utilize euthanasia. It gives you some control over your life. And I think that does mean something. I'm all for it in that, but after you give your opinion, when should euthanasia, if at all, not be okay?
Well, there needs to be a clear, and we're not going to, obviously set it today, but as it goes forward, and I think more states are beginning to pass assisted suicide laws. I think it needs to be clear and clearer the difference between euthanasia and suicide.
Right.
And I think again, it's hard. We're not going to set them, but there needs to be some standards. Terminal ill is a good one. I don't think it applies only to terminally ill patients. I think the part you make the good point about control, and I mean, obviously, like you said, I can't put myself in their shoes, so I don't want to do that. But I that's something that I never really thought about. For me, I would just think about as much as I enjoy life and all and everything. If it got to a point where it's just so bad, the pain or whatever the case is, just you just make the choice, that it's just not worth living anymore. And I think, you should definitely, have to consult with doctors, psychiatrists, and, to make sure that you meet certain requirements. But I'm for it, and I'm, glad to see that it's a topic being brought up again.
Yeah, and like I said, I think my go-to answer for this would be that I'm for it. But when it comes to setting these parameters up for the qualifications that you would have to meet in order for euthanasia to be approved, like by a doctor, a psychologist, whatever, it's hard to do because one easy thing you would be able to say, right, is one requirement that you would have to meet is you cannot be making this decision for a temporary problem, right?
Well, agreed. Yeah.
Okay, but let me throw this at you. Your child dies. That's not temporary. Should it have to be something that it just involves you personally? I mean, I don't know. I mean, and this is an argument I just brought up off the top of my head, but I mean, I can just see a lot of gray areas. Like there was somebody, I think in Europe, did exercise euthanasia, and He did it because he or she did it. I'm not sure which gender, because it was as at the result of sex change operation that he or she was not happy with.
Oh, I think I saw something.
You know,
like
so
that.
that's permanent. I don't
see,
know.
But see, to me, and this is just my opinion, and I think that is more suicide than euthanasia. I think euthanasia needs certain medical conditions need to be met, and in emotional trauma, while I don't want to make that sound unimportant or diminish that to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't think is the same as being terminally ill or unable to get up from the bed, or I think when people that have the trauma occur to them when ending their life is their go-to thought, I think they need help. And I hope that we would be able to provide that and not think of I need to end my life now because of
Sure.
such and such.
I'm sure it can be done. I mean, smarter minds than you and I hope would be involved in doing this, but or making these decisions. But you know what? It's hard to say that nowadays, because when I look at Congress and other politicians, to me, I still think I was just about to say doctors must be intelligent, but I forgot about our pediatrician politician that we have. He just slipped my mind, Mr. Carson.
Well, we had two of them, even Rand Paul.
Oh yeah. See, I found him to be the sanest person on the stage. I did. I found Rand Paul to be sane to an extent. His policy sucked, but I thought he was level-headed. But okay, so I watched the Republican debate. Now, I will say this. I have said that if you watched any of them, you don't have to watch the rest. This one was very, very different.
Yeah, there's a lot less players, and I think everybody got a little more chance to shine. The main people. It was pretty funny though. I thought it was entertaining, not in a good way like politics should be.
No, right, exactly. I have an overall point to make, but I'll save it. So, John Kasich, he brought up a point about a 12-year-old girl that he met at a town hall that said she couldn't stand the arguing with the candidates. This story cannot be true. I'll tell you why. Because in the previous debates, it was his granddaughter. Same story. Nobody's talking about this. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I didn't notice.
He has said this exact same complaint about the arguing on stage and some little girl telling him that she doesn't want to watch or take an interest in politics or some shit because of all the yelling and the name calling and the overall Trumpness that has been brought to the stage during this campaign. Look at it. I'm calling it. I'm going to call bullshit on Kasich's story about a 12-year-old girl at a town hall that he ran into earlier that week, because the exact same story he repeated twice in 2 different debates already this year, but it was his granddaughter that was telling him this. But it's the same story now. It's a 12-year-old girl he met. So
now we got 3 robots in the race now.
Exactly. So
did you see Marco Rubio's face when he kind of caught Trump in his little robot moment? And
he was so happy.
Oh, Marco Rubio looked like a kid in the candy store, man. He was like, "Ooh, I got him! Ooh, I got him!"
I hope his mom bought him an ice cream when that was over with.
Oh man, his freaking face was priceless. Man.
He did come out on top, because at first he was throwing stones from a glass house when he's like, "You're just repeating yourself, Mr. Trump," and I'm like, "Oh, Marco, you dipshit, that was not the right way." Trump calls him on it, and he's like, "You repeated yourself 3 times a month ago." He's like, "You repeated yourself 5 times 2 minutes ago." Okay, all right, he pulled out. All right, Rubio won that round. That little exchange, Rubio got that. But here's one thing about Rubio. I have very few notes on any of these guys, because none of them talked about any issue other than how much they hate each other. There was really no substance to this. So when he was asked about the bailout for Puerto Rico, I just thought it was funny that his answer was, we will bail out Puerto Rico if they change their economic system to make sure that their collapse doesn't happen again. Do I need to spell out the irony of this statement? Do people not see the connection there? These guys are not trying to change any of the policies that led to our economic collapse, yet we have plenty of citizens giving them money on a regular basis, yet they're like, oh no, Puerto Rico, you're at the little kids table. Up here in the big leagues, we get to fuck around with money. We're the only ones that get to ask for money for the same system that fucked all these Americans before. I like I said, I have an overall point to this. Carson. So Carson said, help South America's economy in order to make it to where they don't, feel the need to come up here. It doesn't. I hate to say this. I'm not saying I agree with Ben, but do you think if we put more money into not just Mexico, but El Salvador and Venezuela and all these, cocaine, Colombia, all these like drug-filled fucking safe havens that are just terrible, have extreme poverty. Do you think, I would say that the amount of money it would take to fix these places would be far less than the amount of money that we spend on our border control and on the DEA budget, all that shit. Was that actually a half-assed good idea from Ben Carson?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. We give these countries a lot of money right now. Millions and millions, tens or hundreds of millions to fight the cartels, to fight the, drugs and all this. So, me personally, I think that while I'm okay with, I'm not saying we just stop all funding, but we have so many problems in this country. I almost sound like a Republican here, but I think, you got to come back, I think, and invest in our country right now before we invest more in their country. And I'm going to sound like a Republican again, but, I think securing the border is an important thing. I mean, not just for immigration. I think for terrorist, reasons. And it's not, I'm not saying we need to build a wall.
You're second generation, right? Your grandparents immigrated here?
Yeah.
Okay, but Mr. Cruz, go ahead.
No. Let me make my.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
And I mean, I believe in amnesty. The people that are here should be here. I think the problem with having the border so loose becomes a domestic threat. To me, if you have Mexican, people from Southern America coming across the border freely, how do you not have people from the Middle East coming across just as easily, right? It's much easier to get into Mexico, whether it's through Central America or it's straight through Mexico.
Sure.
And then come in that way. To me, that's my biggest fear when it comes to the border. It's not, immigrants coming to take my jobs. It's if I was, a terrorist, that would just be, instead of going through the refugee program, which requires all the vetting and all the stuff that we've, talked about previously, that's just the easiest way to get into the country.
See, I do not worry about terrorism. I don't. For one, as San Bernardino proved, somebody wants to do a local grassroots sort of deal, like what happened there, where it wasn't a political target. There was no real political motivation. It was, very small to scale to their environment. There's no way to stop these things. And nobody's telling you there are. But no. I'll tell you what I have an issue with. When it comes to border control, the only thing the only major reason that I am for border control is because of drugs and the lives that takes, whether it's, not just through ODing, but for the amount of lives that are lost in drug wars, wars for territory, street gangs, all that shit that drugs fuel. That's what I have an issue with. And one something that just boggles my mind is beheading is not an exclusive thing in the Middle East. This shit happens 3.5 hours from where I'm from. Is Mexico. Mexico, that is what the cartel does. The cartel's been beheading people for fucking years and chopping people up. If you go into the dark abysses of the fucking internet, you can find these fucking videos. They're disgusting. And this shit is happening at our back fucking door. Why aren't you hearing about it? Because we get a ton of fucking money from it. The government makes a shit ton of money fighting drugs. It's the same thing. They're not into cutting everything off at the root. They're into chasing the branches because they get more money. It's the same thing when it comes to healthcare. They're not looking for a cure because there's no fucking money there.
No, but I disagree. First of all, though, I think so. San Bernardino was a inside job, and it was a small home cooked kind of plot, right? But you're not giving credit. These people, their biggest goal would be to some other kind of attack. Obviously, not on the scale of 9/11. It doesn't have to be on that scale.
Sure,
but any kind of attack for them, while they're of course they're fighting in Libya and Syria and Iraq. Of course, all those fights are going on, but in their head, any kind of attack here would be just a huge momentum for them. And
of course,
you have to think about how to obviously stop that. And I'm not saying securing the border would stop it, but in my opinion, I think that's one of the biggest gaps in security that the country has. If your people are allowed to come in through your borders, and it's not necessarily a wall that needs to be built. That's not the solution. But if that's the case, of course there's going to be bad people with those intentions.
No, I'm not saying they're not. But what I'm saying is like I focus on the shit that we deal with every day, the things that take American lives every day in far greater numbers than terrorism has in the past, and in my opinion ever will, unless we ever get a stranglehold on our drug problem in this country. For me, that's what I look at. But let me see.
I guess I'm going to take it just quick.
Yeah.
Because this is something that me and you have a little different opinions.
Yeah.
On just not necessarily the security thing, but I think when we talk about the Middle East and the Islamic faith, or especially the fundamentalists, somebody on Facebook shared a meme that said liberals are always attacking Christians because they're afraid to attack Muslims or something like that, and when we talked about it, you said, basically we're in a Christian majority country, so you focus mostly on Christianity, which, I understand completely. But I think we let the foundations of Islam and the things that creates the radicals, I think we let that slide a little bit too much. And I think we have a slight difference of opinion there. I'm more, I think, not. I don't know. I have more hate, I think, for Islam than Christianity.
I feel I have the same amount of issues with both of them, but I believe for me Christianity just gets brought up more because. And I know you're on the same side with this. I mean, you and I, we discuss the economy quite a bit, and religion in our government quite a bit. It's this country's putting in Christian law while yelling about Sharia law when they're doing the exact same thing. So for me, it gets brought up more. It's more in my face every day. And they're two different types of evil. It's the Muslims are doing what the Christians did during the Crusades and the Spanish Inquisition and all those holy wars that were fought, that were led by the Christians or the Catholics, whatever. The Christians are just doing it differently now, and they're honestly affecting, in my opinion, they're affecting more people in the developed world on a daily basis. But that's not to say that they're better or worse than the Muslim extremists and those types of issues.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and it is almost like a two-front war. Obviously at home we have to deal with the Christian laws that they're constantly trying to pass, and all the bullshit that we have to deal with that. But I think at the same time, when you look at the region, what's happening over there is you have more and more countries that are accepting of the foundation, the radical kind of Islam, and believe that if a woman cheats, she should be killed. You have all these different things, and I think as liberals, the freedom of speech, obviously freedom of religion, freedom, a lot of press, a lot of freedoms that we fight for as liberals. Those people aren't have no idea what that even means.
Yeah, and this sort of goes back to the PC conversation that we were talking about. And it is complicated from an atheist perspective in the sense that for me, I despise all religion equally. It doesn't matter whether it's Scientology, Christianity, Muslim. Like, as far as the idea goes, I have the same amount of issue with it. But you and I also talked last week about fighting for the underdog. And when a religion like Muslims in the United States that are not extremists become the underdog, and you and I a few times have defended not the Muslim religion, but the people of Islam when they have been discriminated against in our country. It becomes a very weird line, but I think where you and I don't get caught up is we still remember, to you and I, all religion is evil. These people are kind of sick. They've infected themselves with a terrible idea, which has extreme consequences, not just on them and their families, but the rest of the world. And that goes for every single religion, primarily in this country, Christianity and Muslim, especially Muslim in the Middle East. But I think we're kind of getting around this PC deal again, where liberals are so bleeding heart that they don't want to go after Muslims. They don't want to go after the Muslim idea. And that's where there's a difference between insulting the shit out of somebody's idea is fine, but insulting them as a person, unless there's adequate reason to do so, there's a big difference there. Is that where we're going with this?
Well, no, I think, that's, a fair point. And of course, I don't hate, anybody that just practices Islam. That's, that's not, what I meant. But the idea, just as some of the core ideas of Christianity and the way that it's perverted now, I hate, I hate those about the, the religion. The people, the refugees, of course, I have no problem taking their side and when it's reasonable, we'll defend them when it's right.
Right.
But I don't know if it's necessarily the PC thing. I just think I think maybe it's just downplayed, in liberal kind of conversations.
It is, because liberals are all about not attacking a protected characteristic, which is your choice of religion. And I think that's really what it comes down to. Is I think a lot of liberals are just like, to each his own, you do your own thing, we support everybody, all that type of stuff, which sounds great, which, there's a lot of that, there's a lot of that idea in me. That's how I feel about a lot of things. I mean, if people treated their church like alcohol, out of reach of children and, within certain places like your church and your house, I wouldn't have an issue with religion. But it's when it gets pushed everywhere else that I end up having a problem with it. But I think that has something to do with it when it comes to liberals and why they why they think the term Islamic extremist is derogatory or offensive, or why we shouldn't have an issue with Muslims. And I tell you what I think makes it okay for us to have an issue with Muslims is we also have an issue with Christians. We also have an issue with Catholics. We also have an issue with Jews. And when I say those groups of people, I mean their idea. Their worshiping idea is what I have an issue with. And I think that's what makes it okay. But liberals, I think the most bleeding heart ones do not have that thought process about it.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. So we can move on. I just thought I read an article today where, again, this stuff happens all the time, but it's just, I think it was a nanny in Russia with like the full, traditional Muslim. She beheaded a 4-year-old boy and was walking around with his head saying, Allah Akbar or something.
He should have taken an example from that last kid and chopped his own head off. Dead children, only used by religion. I'm getting very sick and tired of seeing those things that go around Facebook where it's like 7 years of bad luck if you don't say amen. And it's like a child who, something happened or whatever. I saw another one the other day that it was a picture of a gigantic baby with people around it trying to do CPR. But the baby was like the size of a room. The baby was massive. It was a gigantic baby. And it had that, 7 years bad luck if you don't write amen. And so many people like commented on it. And somebody went on there, it was like, this is fucking fake. Look at that baby. That baby's huge. God, religion will use fucking anything. Anyway, we got to close out the fucking Republican thing here. What do we have here? Oh yeah, and Trump. So obviously, eliminate the Department of Education and the EPA, which is fuck you, Flint, Michigan.
Hey, he said it after last week, right? We didn't get to talk about the I love poorly educated people.
Oh no, we didn't get to that. I love the poorly educated. This fucking shit. How much more of that's not even a signal. That's not subliminal. That's right in your fucking face, man.
When you put it in context, it's not. It wasn't as bad. He was talking about the different groups that he won, but still, that was the only group that he made an extra comment about.
A loving comment about.
It's just like, I love stupid people, and they love me.
I don't know. One thing that I thought was just extremely hypocritical of this dumbass is. Fox, the guy from Mexico, we're not going to build that fucking wall. And Trump was, oh my God, his virgin billionaire little ears of his just couldn't take that. The F word just broke the hymen on both sides. And you couldn't even see that he was bleeding out of his ears. His skin's so fucking orange. But I just... Seriously? Talk about throwing stones from a glass house. Jesus Christ.
Exactly, Jesus Christ. He's trying to appeal to the evangelicals. So he's, oh my, a swear word.
It's, what do you call it? He called it a disgusting word and something he would never say. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Now, abolishing the IRS, here's my final thing here, so I'll probably get into a rant on this. Just because I don't understand how people don't see, like, it's not even writing on the fucking wall. It's on billboards. So they brought up abolishing the EPA, abolishing the IRS. I think that one was from Ben Carson. Trump also said, abolish the Department of Education. Okay. Now, let's not forget that the whole basis of the Republican Party, their message is states' rights, not federal rights. So the state should have the right to choose how things get done. And now they want to abolish the IRS. Well, if the IRS gets abolished, who the fuck is going to look into rich people that are scamming America? Nobody. Nobody's there. That's not going to happen. Because if you think these fucking Wall Street, what do they call them? Wall Street watchdogs are going to last under the Republican Party? Fuck no, they're not.
But I mean, it's kind of a joke in itself, right? Because you need somebody to collect taxes. So if you abolish the IRS, you're just going to have to create the,
but the
Department of Taxes, and it's going to be the exact same fucking thing. But
it'll be under different rules. There'll be different things that come along with that. You tear down the old system, you rebuild a new system that goes along with what you and the rest of your stupid fucking lobbyists want. So they want to
see. This is the part that pisses me off, though, is they talk about free healthcare, or not free healthcare, universal healthcare is something that's would never happen. It's some crazy talk. But then when they talk about this, oh yeah, that's normal. People are not considered crazy when they propose these ideas. Oh, that's perfectly within politics.
Yeah, well, okay. Yes, it's all crazy, but I don't see how people don't recognize that they are removing all of their obstacles, everything that they say. So you abolish the EPA. What does that do? Oh, it frees up business. Yeah, to fuck their people locally. And if you don't have a federal arm in every, reaching out to look into shit, again, fuck you, Flint, Michigan. We don't give a shit. So there's the EPA. And then you have the IRS. And yes, you're right. They will have to replace that department with somebody that's going to be responsible for taking taxes. But who the fuck, like I said, your fucking Wall Street watchdogs are not going to last under Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, or Marco Rubio. So they're getting rid of all of these things. They're going to turn all the rights and laws over to the states, and there's going to be nobody overseeing anything. And yes, business is going to thrive. For anybody that goes to work and has to go up above floor number 35 and wears a fucking suit and drives an Audi. Business is going to be fucking phenomenal for these guys. I just don't understand how people don't see this. Because Ben Carson got the loudest applause from that audience when he said, abolish the IRS. I don't see how people don't see this happening. They want to believe that millions of poor people are ruining this country. And not just the handful of people that actually make these decisions. What's a bigger conspiracy theory? This one or theirs?
Yeah, that's the amazing part is, these people, everybody pays taxes, It's like somebody at my work was complaining, a single guy, and we're in a union. We have a pretty good job for the area. And he was saying, I paid, this much in taxes, and somebody's like, that's not bad. I paid, close. And he's like, but I have additional income. Well, okay, no shit. You work, you have a good, normal salary. And if you have some kind of additional income on the side, of course you're going to pay fucking taxes on it. It's just like, it blows my mind. I mean, I pay a pretty high, tax rate, whatever. At the end of the day, I mean, it pays for schools, it pays for fire departments. There's all kinds of stuff that it pays for. It amazes me just how much these people bitch about, taxes. It's, I don't know. It's frustrating because, these people will take advantage of so many different things, but then they're like, taxes,
Yeah, no, I got in an argument with two people last week. Oh my God. I forget what date it is, but I told everybody on this show last week, I believe, to just watch out the episode after I have family come visit me, because these motherfuckers. So, these guys, there was a, what do you call it? A fucking, that open letter that went out from that like 26-year-old woman to that other female that lives in San Francisco that asked for higher wages because you can't live on fucking $9 an hour in San Francisco, and she wrote this whole thing about how she did hard work and all this other shit. So somebody posted this, and I went on there and said, oh, I've been wrong this whole time. I've had my economic principles completely fucked up. You mean to tell me this one female actually got paid what she deserved because she worked hard? Holy fuck, I didn't know that's all it took. Jesus Christ. Fucking Cruise 2016. This started this huge fucking argument back and forth, and I pointed two things out to these very highly religious people. The first thing I said to them was, this is greed. That's all this is. This is you saying that you worked harder than anybody else that you know. And if somebody doesn't make the money that they want to make or make more than you or is not successful, it is simply because they did not work hard. So is that really what your problem is? And I finished with this. I said, because you find me a Bible verse that says it's okay for you to think this way, and I'll shut the fuck up, because in my opinion, you are going completely against your mythical fucking Jesus guy I keep hearing about. They dodged Jesus completely. Didn't even mention their heavenly Father. Didn't mention any of that shit. What they did say was, I have worked hard. You have no idea how much I've sacrificed. I have worked hard. This is my money, and you're damn right I am greedy about it. I don't want to give it to somebody that wants to stay on fucking welfare. And I said, this is where we're going to have to agree to disagree. I even said this. I even said, I can't, you know what? This may not even be your fault. You are doing what you have always been told to do. All right. Fair enough. Here's the problem. The next morning, I happened to go back to that conversation, and I missed a comment. I skimmed over a comment where I was told that the person said, and I'm half-ass quoting here, I'm paraphrasing, you don't know what hard work is. I've worked harder than you can ever imagine, sacrificed more than you can even think of, and I deserve every penny that I make. Now, I wrote on there, I said, you know what? I'm fighting every fucking urge in my body right now to not respond to this. And I said, the only reason I'm not going to is because you're going to be at my fucking house in 2 weeks. And I'm going to let you know everything that I think about what you just said as you're pitching a tent in my fucking backyard. You get to sleep with the motherfucking scorpions. But here's the problem. And here's one of the things I'm going to tell her from what she said. So she's saying that she's never worked harder than me and that hard work pays off. And that's how you get paid. I work for one of the largest companies, the largest company in this country for the industry that I'm in. I've held a corporate position. I've managed sites all over the West Coast. And I've made probably double what one of them makes. I make definitely time and a half more than the other one makes. So here's what I'm going to say. And that's, I'm not bragging. This is not me. I'm anti-corporate America. But the only reason I bring this up is because my follow-up question to that is going to be, which one is it? Either you haven't worked hard enough in your life or your system is completely fucked. Which one is it? And that's going to be my fucking question. That's going to be my checkmate. I cannot wait. And somebody, I know we have a listener that knows this person, so I will tell you all about how this goes down because I can't fucking wait. I cannot wait for these two people to get to my fucking house. The war is going to go fucking down. Because right after that, they post this. Don't like the minimum wage? If you got minimum skills, minimum education, show minimum motivation, and provide a minimum contribution to the workplace, why in the hell should someone be forced to pay you more? They posted that shit. They're just adding fuel to this fucking fight. It's gonna be glorious. It's gonna be Burning Man is coming to fucking Arizona. I'm gonna light this bitch up. I cannot wait. Ooh. So, the episode before, because I don't know what the fucking weekend is that they're coming, but as I said, I will warn everybody, the episode before, the episode that you all need to fucking listen to, because I'm going to be off the motherfucking chain. I cannot wait. Oh, I can't wait.
You're starting to worry me a little bit over here.
Oh, dude. I just, and I've noticed that I've been starting to get kind of drained on debating, which is a big deal for me. That's a huge deal. because I love it. I really do love arguing with people. You know, they'll say, "Oh, I was just baiting you to see if you'd come." No, bitch, don't misunderstand. I love bait. I'll eat bait all damn day. I love it. But it's been wearing on me a bit. Have you ever felt that way where it's just like, fuck, I don't want to break down Bernie's fucking tax plan for you again. Or not even for you again, but just like, I've defended Bernie's tax plan like 5 times a day. I'm out of it. I can't fucking I can't write it again. I can't tell you again.
I think the problem for me is just when people, and you know, after you talk to certain people over and over again, you kind of come to different stalemates. But like, if there's a basic fact that's there and you have statistics to prove it, and they just can't accept, you know, those facts, that's when I start getting like, okay, you know what I mean? We're having a conversation. I'm bringing up a point. I'm showing you this to prove my point. And you're just like completely dismissing it. Like, oh, you know, I don't even, sometimes like it blows me away depending on what the graph is or whatever. They just find something like, oh, well, that doesn't, you know, include, you know, the Native Alaskan population. Oh, you know, or some, you know, some crazy shit like that where, you know, they'll just think like, oh, well, we'll just dismiss that graph because, you know, for whatever reason.
I'm glad you brought this up because that was actually, that you reminded me, that's actually what happened. That was the first time that I went, I don't want to, for me to say, I don't want to argue. I don't want to debate with you. Huge thing for me. But here's what happened. This guy, we were having a religious discussion, and this guy, this was just last week. He said, I'm not religious. Now, he helps run a church organization. He says, I do not associate with organized religion. I am not religious. And I said, you are religious. Just because you don't participate in organized religion does not mean that you are not religious. They are not like synonymous with one another. So here's what happened. He continues to argue with me about what the word religious means. So I show him the definition where it says basically it's like to participate or practice religion, plain and simple. And he's like, oh, now you're going to go to the internet. We were talking about Bernie Sanders and I showed you a poll last week and you said that didn't matter. I'm like, no. Your fucking collection of opinions does not fucking matter to me when you poll conservatives and ask them if Obama is a Muslim. I don't fucking care. That's not the point. Don't throw... I said this about somebody else, a completely different person that I was having an argument with, and they said, well, 70% of Republicans in a recent poll agree that Obama's responsible for race relations being so terrible in this country. Don't throw me your collection of just ridiculous, stupid, ignorant fucking opinions and then drop the microphone. Don't do that shit. And so he says this to me, and I'm like, yeah, fucking Mr. Webster was extremely politically one-sided, right? He defined religion just for my argument. Fuck your polls and fuck your opinions. Jesus Christ. God. That's what happened. That was the line that was said where right after that happened, I was like, because right after that he brought up something about Bernie, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't explain his tax plan to you again. I can't explain how 90% of our currency is not in circulation in our economy. I can't do it. I cannot go through all this. I'm hoping I find my bearings again. I'm sure I will.
Yeah, I seen a meme from a good Christian friend of mine the other day that said, so raising taxes on the wealthy and raising the minimum wage are going to create jobs. How? Magic. And I'm thinking like, oh,
you religious
really?
Fuck.
Really? Fucking magic, is not a good enough solution for those things. But when it comes
good enough to get 2 male and 1 female and 1 female species onto a boat in one fucking location, it's good enough for our economy. All right. How much time we got?
We got about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. So we'll close on this. I watched the Oscars last night. That's why we didn't record the show last night. Congratulations, DiCaprio. finally, Leonardo DiCaprio gets a fucking Oscar. And
Leo.
huh?
Leo. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. But one thing that is really cool is the Revenant, Mad Max cleaned up on all visual effects and sets and costumes and all that shit. But the big categories, with the exception of Bridge of Spies, which I have not seen yet, that was Spotlight had a lot of awards, and The Big Short got a few things as well. And I think it's really awesome that, you know, I haven't seen Mad Max and I haven't seen Bridge of Spies and I haven't seen The Revenant. I've been slacking lately. I went and saw Straight Outta Compton, but they only nominated the 2 white writers. But I think it's great that the 2 movies that got a lot of attention and got nominated for Best Picture and all that were movies of substance, of touchy topics, of taboo topics, you know, things you're supposed to not discuss at work, that sort of thing. So Chris Rock, I'm waiting to see what happens. I haven't been on Twitter, but I'm waiting to see if Jada Pinkett and Will Smith decide to go kill somebody and Spike Lee because of the comments that were made by Chris Rock and some of the skits that they did. But they brought up they talked a lot about it, and I think Chris Rock got his message across. I hope so. Kevin Hart went up there and said a few words about it as well. And that the problem is Hollywood, not the Oscars. I kind of agree. I sort of agree with that. Nothing really crazy happened. It was just Chris Rock's opening statement where he basically started off by saying, your grandma's not swinging from a tree, so why do you worry about the Oscars? Why do you worry about this? That was what he came off as saying in the very beginning. And I was like, holy fuck. Like, that's not what I was expecting. But his closing part of his statement ended up pretty good. But I was expecting a lot more to happen last night. And nothing really crazy happened. The president came out, I fucking don't know the foundation, came out and said a few words about opening up to opportunities and roles and stuff to black people. And today all I'm seeing is we're all the Asian people. Asian people make up 1% of leading roles in this country. So I don't know. I think change is great. I think the conversation is great. I do think that if somebody just wanted to relax and watch the Oscars last night, they were bombarded with this shit because it came up every fucking segment. Every time Rock was on the stage, he said something. But what I will say, and I posted this on the Age of Reason page last night, is entertainment is so important. It is. Art is very important. But let's not forget that we have an election going on right now. There are more important things to pay attention to. And if you want great movies and you want the music industry to get better again, we need to start caring more about substance and caring more about art. And this is how we get this done. Because eventually, we talked last week, they took shit out of our music. And, that was a huge blow. And we rely on our comedians now, all that shit. If you don't want the rest of the few doors that we have open to be shut to us, get at least somewhat knowledgeable about politics. You don't got to do what Alex and I do. And even being an atheist, I was talking to a friend last week. I'm going to close with this because I'm done with the Oscars now. I was talking to a friend last week, and he said that he will not call himself an atheist. But he says, because he does not have any evidence, and there has never been evidence for God or Jesus or any of those stories. But he doesn't want to say that he's an atheist because he doesn't want to have to argue with people. And what I told him was, what you just said is what I've said. That's my one line. Why don't you believe in God? Because I have no evidence. Give me evidence, I have to change my opinion. You and I have said that many times. But for some reason, people think that if you're going to be an atheist, you have to argue religion and maybe even politics like you and I do on a regular fucking basis. No. Alex and I just have a rare ability, for given a lot of other people that we know, to emerge, just fucking, what's the word? Immerse ourselves in politics and religion on a regular basis. A lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of people can't do that for one reason or another. Maybe you have a hobby that is completely unrelated. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I told him was, when the day comes for rights to be valid, that's when you need people like us. That's when you need people like me. People that are willing to get in the fucking trenches and argue people. And it's not me, it's people like me. It's people like me, like our House rep here in Arizona, who's fighting to get prayer removed out of the opening, from opening statements at our council meetings here in Phoenix. That's where people like Alex and I pay off. That's what I think. But it does not mean that you need to take the fucking cross to every goddamn Christian that you see. You don't got to do what we do. We do it because I think we enjoy it, and we think we're, on at least a small scale, right, we're improving our world.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And it's fun, yeah.
It's so fun. I do love it. I think we're...
Yeah. Yeah, on that note, yeah, we'll wrap it up and save some fun for next week.
Super Tuesday. Oh, go fucking vote. All of you listening, go vote. Tomorrow's the day. 20 states. It's got to be done. Oh, and I'll say this too about freaking Hillary just before we leave. Nobody says that you're going to have to like this. But if you're voting for Sanders or you're voting for Hillary and the person you don't want gets the nomination, still go fucking vote. Nobody said you had to be happy about it. There we go. There's my final point. It's that important. It really is. But all right, everybody. So follow us at AOR_podcast on what's that? Twitter. Yeah. The Age of Reason podcast page on Facebook, and for everything else, AORpodcast.com. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.